Okay, so it's a time for another video about money. Given that, so many people are broke, homeless, jobless, whatever, but they might have the internet or whatever they have. So here's what I'm calling the backside of my $1 bill, or the butt of my dollar bill. And I'm not necessarily going to put any solutions about the whole economic thing. I had touched on in another video alternative or complementary currencies, that may be, if not a partial, if not a permanent, complete solution, that it could be a partial or temporary solution. So, or a step in that direction, one part of a larger solution. So I just want to touch on a few points, questions, analysis related to economic questions. I was reading some philosophy stuff on Adam Smith and other, related ideas related to economics, and I just wanted to put my own ideas out there, things that I was thinking about. So, one question that I have right off the bat is, why don't we just start, if we really want to, start to solve these economic problems? One thing that we can do is, I think immediately, is to abolish property taxes and income taxes, and adopt a system that's based on a consumption-based taxation only, meaning that the only time you pay a tax is when you purchase something. I don't know if it would be buying and selling, but anytime you purchase something, you would pay a tax, but otherwise you would have no. So if you purchased a home, you'd pay a tax, obviously, but then otherwise there'd be no property tax. And that if you purchase something, there would be a tax, and but no income tax. So either state, federal, or whatever. So the question would be, where do you draw the line? Which things do you tax? Which things do you leave, tax exempt? Another thing, there was another point that, well, that's one point, but the next question is just a general question. And these are things just to think about. There's a question of, how does property contribute to inequality? And then there's another question: how does wealth contribute to inequality? For instance, if you take someone who starts out, a family, an individual, whatever, they start out from a position in society, whether it's their family or what have you, and where they are starting from a place of possessing, significant property or significant wealth, does that not lend an unfair advantage to those individuals or those families or those groups within the larger society? So that's just a general question. Just think about, see where you come from it. I'm not opposed to private property per se, but there is something to be said for that, or to wealth even necessarily, but there is something to be said of the two questions: how does property contribute to inequality, and how does wealth contribute to inequality? How do these two things, property and wealth, essentially confer unfair advantages to those who hold property and or wealth? And is there anything we can do about it? The other, that said, moving on, like I said, these are just points, questions, analysis. There's a really big thing that's really important to consider. There's this notion that, of free market wisdom, man. The free market, man, it'll figure it out, dude. Well, from my perspective, looking at all the facts, I think that free market wisdom is questionable. My question is, where is the intelligence in the free market? In other words, how and when does industry or the market communicate effectively what is wanted or needed by the market or by industry. See, I think this is the real challenge, the real problem recently has been the lack of market, I guess what I could call, I don't have a term for it, but what could be called market communication, or industry communicating to workers what it is they need, very clearly and unequivocally, without any hemming and hawing. Okay, so the basic point is, how can workers provide that which they don't know? In other words, if let me give you a few examples so you can see what I'm getting at. If you go back in time and you go back to the 50s, 60s, 70s, maybe even prior to that, industry communicated their needs very clearly. They communicated to people, to workers, to society, to educational institutions, the need for manufacturing workers for manufacturing jobs. It's pretty much a fact. You see it over and over again. This was probably even before 1950, 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, but especially in those areas. I mean, in that whole time frame, this was communicated very clearly. Now, that there may have been exceptions, but that was the general rule. Now, fast forward a little bit to the 1980s and the 1990s. Okay, this is the period when I was growing up and when I was entering into high school, and I took that computer class, which I didn't understand the relevance of. If I understood the relevance of it, if industry had communicated the significance of high-tech jobs and workers equally and powerfully and vocally, as in the past the industry communicated manufacturing jobs, I would have gotten into the high-tech stuff, and I wouldn't have done the .com thing. I would have been a millionaire, period. So, see, my point is that industry communicated to some the need for high-tech workers, but they didn't really get that message out to everyone. So it was often the hacker, or the kind of geek or the nerd or whatever that was really into computers just because they liked they enjoyed it. They enjoyed all the computer programs and all the other stuff they could do, the hacking they could do, and the fun stuff that they could do. These are the ones that went on and really became adept with computers, and they were ahead of the curve. So, then you got more and more people who actually went and got educational degrees, and for that purpose in the late, maybe in the late 90s or in the 2000s forward. So, but what's happened is, after all of this, here we are in 2012. Okay, so today industry is just pretty much silent. Okay. Silent pause, just to kind of for effect. But the truth of the matter is that many jobless were duped into believing that a college degree, it equals a job and a career, man. After I get drunk and high in college, I'm going to be just living high and easy. And, so all of this was just, industry completely, in the market being silent. And essentially the market lied and industry was not forthcoming. And this is something we need to really work on. I mean, because if workers don't know what the market needs, how can they provide it? If workers don't know what industry needs, even if businesses don't know what industry needs, how can they provide it? Another way to look at that is, you're saying, oh, well, we need new businesses, we need new small businesses and startups and all this. I don't know what the hell you need in the industry and the market. So how the hell can I start a business? I go down the street and there's all these empty buildings, empty storefronts, on and on and on. I see all kinds of things that you would think would stay in business going out of business. So you guys need to communicate, okay? If you need something in the market, you need to communicate it loud and clear. If industry needs something, if businesses need something, you need to communicate it loud and clear so that workers can do whatever they need to do to provide what the market needs and to provide what industry needs so that we can all, not only get through this period of this economic period, but also have a better systems in place so that these kind of, dry spells won't happen. I mean, this is really what happened. What happened is industry failed to communicate what they needed, and so you have all these guys with college degrees who don't have a job because maybe industry started going in some other direction and shifting. And how can someone catch up when they've already got their 4-year, 8-year, whatever degree and do a U-turn? So just some ideas to think about. Industry, there needs to be market communication, industry communication, not only internally throughout the market, throughout industry, but to all the workers and to all businesses within the industry and the market, and potentially to new businesses that might start up. If we don't know what you need, we can't provide it. So it's real simple. I mean, it's just kind of like common sense, you know what I'm saying? So communication is key, as always, and in every sector, including the financial, the economic. Thanks.